Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of the One Life, One Club series, kindly sponsored by Carl Cullen Fitted Furniture and Declan Barron Hurleys and Escorty. This week's episode features the Shamrocks GA Club, and we visit the White House to chat with two iconic clubmen, Paddy Dobbs and Mick Wafer.
We're here in the White House pub in Enniscorthy with Mick Weaver and Paddy Dobbs for episode 2 of One Life, One Club. I'd like to thank you for coming in tonight there, lads. Paddy, I believe you were one of the founding members of the Shamrocks GA Club. How did the club come about all those years ago?
The club was founded in 1980, in November 1980, at a meeting in the Captain Wafer Hall. There was no doubt that they wanted to reform the Shamrocks, but the first debate was, what were we going to call it? And I can remember I proposed St. Senans, and I nearly was killed. They said, there's only one name, it's the Shamrocks. And the origins of that meeting started here in the White House. I maybe 6 months or roughly before that, when there was a card game played every Friday night. Some way the debate got on to hurling was dead in the Shannon, that there was nobody hurling. After the Shamrocks and the Aidens united, nearly all the Shannon fellas, hurlers and kind of mentors wouldn't go across the town.
Right.
And they were disbanded, I think, in 1969. And the Shamrocks Aidens were formed. The chat was that hurling was dead in the Shannon, and something should be done about it. And as a result of it, there was a hurling challenge match between the singles and the married from the White House here. And it took place next week in the St. Senans little bottom field, and with just makeshift goals or courts or whatever. Yeah. And one funny incident that I remember at that, Boogie Cowman said to Bushy, if you'd like, we were hurling, you watch yourself now, you know. Yeah. And Bushy said, you leave me alone, he said, or I'll pull your arm out of the socket and I bet you the deck with it. That kind of stirred up, why shouldn't we do something about it? And the main driver, in my opinion, would have been John O'Connor, but we were all totally behind him. And as a result, there was a meeting called for the Captain Wafer Hall. And 93 people turned up at that meeting because I took a head count of it. John O'Connor was appointed the chairman. Tom O'Leary was appointed the secretary. And I was appointed the treasurer. And there was a committee, Johnny Hyland would have been on it, Brian Davis, Bushy, Davy, Whack the Wire was on it. We had nothing. We kind of commandeered that bottom school field. And that was our original, we'll say, pitch, but we didn't have a pitch.
Where did the top pitch come out then?
And then Tom O'Leary, myself, and Davy were the main ones looking for a pitch, and we scoured around and around and around looking for a pitch. And I was up on Vinegar Hill one day, and I was looking down. I was looking at every field in the 360 radius, and I saw Georgie Barber's field, and it was rectangular. There was a lot of cows in it, and thistles and ragweeds and everything. And I said, fuck me, and it's right beside us, you know. I ran straight into Davy. I said, Davy, come on. We had a greyhound with us, and we walked through the cattle. Geez, he said, you might be right. And I was on a slant, but it wasn't that bad of a slant. And he said, Georgie Barber will never sell that, you know. Well, I said, I'll ask him, man. And he said he didn't own the field, he had it rented from Paddy Bulger. So Tom O'Leary went to Paddy Bulger, and he came out and he said he'll sell it if the money is right. And he wanted, I think it might have been 3,000 an acre. I think that's what the figure was now, because we gave him 23 or 4,000 for it. But in between, we used to train in Patrick's Park.
Okay.
And we bought our hurls and our balls from Mickey Lynch and John Turl. They were all second-hand.
All second-hand hurls and balls. I'll move on to Mick there. Mick, so we got that in-depth history study there. Mick, what was the club like when you started playing, and when did you start playing for the Shamrocks?
Well, the cows were gone. There was a few tisses there, but I moved to the Shannon in 1990 from Bunclody.
Another blow in.
Yeah, another blow in. Not a huge amount of people know that either, but
No.
1990, so I was 6, moved into the Shannon. We never really kind of made it up around to the Shamrocks pitch until maybe another 2 or 3 years after being in the Shannon. But my first memories were that there was kind of 2 ways: the pedestrian way to get up, and then if you had a car, then the way you drive up. So if I was going up training, it would be go up to St. Stennins, and there was no railing or anything around it at that time, and it was walk in through the bottom, the little field that Paddy was talking about. There was a little wire fence then that was fairly well worn down at that stage as an entry point, and you'd get into the bottom pitch, which was overgrown and not used for a pitch, and you'd go up then to the top pitch as we know it, and that's where we were. So at the time, we wouldn't have dressing rooms. We had the back of a lorry, the white container. I always remember then, if you were training or anything, to be grand, you'd be with your own crew in there. But if there was a match, then there was only one container or 2 teams, so we'd be on the right, the opposing team would be on the left. We'd be togging out.
How would the team talks go then, Mick?
Well, the team talks, I don't remember much of the team talks. I remember a lot of shouting. You'd have the likes of Bahi, Pudgy, and there was a lot of roaring and bawling.
Were they your mentors and coaches at the time?
They would have been, yeah. Like my father Joe with Bahi, Pudgy, they're the lads that I remember being over us. Then
Started off.
Powder would have got involved then, maybe under 14.
Can I just ask you, Mick, it's called Father Murphy Park after the great man himself in 1798. Was that?
Paddy's shaking his head. It is now, yeah.
It was never christened. There was several debates on what we should call it. And then fixtures had come out for Father Murphy Park. And see, it's in Father Murphy Park. The entrance was in Father Murphy Park. And it just stuck, yeah.
Because it's on the side of Vinegar Hill, and there's a lot of history there, obviously, from 1798. Did that ever come into your team talks, say, when you were going out before you go out to hurl?
So it would have featured a huge amount. Probably not as much these days, I suppose, because maybe, lads are not as tuned into kind of where they are, the
history of the place.
Yeah, but it really did come into a lot of the team talks, to be honest with you, like where we're from and the fist to be pumping and
The blood in your hands.
it is, yeah. But even in terms of motivation and things, there's a real kind of siege mentality up there. And we really, really believe, and we still do believe, that it goes back to those times where, the last of the pikemen were really under pressure, and, they never gave up, and they lasted it out until...
I suppose everyone looking in at the Shamrocks would see them as the fighters and the net with the never said that. Yeah,
and we do have that kind of name, and even in terms of the training and stuff, like we wouldn't be shy about going up and using, and like you have lads like, say, Liam Dunn in his book would say he would have went up there. Liam Griffin would have had Wexford back in '96 up around there and the history of it, but we were kind of brought up in terms of Robbie bringing the lads up there in '95 and '96, and we would have had like Kevin and Sausage who were flying at the time, and
The Hillmen used to have.
they did this time in '96, and we'd be up there then, 6 or 7 years later, and we were trying to beat that time, and you're building that legacy the whole time,
What were your standout moments as a player? Obviously, you're still playing, but
Still playing,
a
and
long career with the Shamrocks.
Yeah,
What are
sure.
your standout moments?
I suppose I started in around with the men in around 2000. I'd say, probably starting with junior. So I was kind of lucky enough to get a spectrum. You know, like I started off with Bahi was the kind of fullback, Pudgy was the other cornerback, and I was cornerback, and lads like Paddy over me, and like that was for the, you know, you're going into adult and then progression through. But my real.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
From my memory, there was 3 under 16 lads played senior with the Shamrocks. Harry Goff, Mick Wafer, and Wiley Cash. And I think Mick Wafer was the first one. And I think he played against the Shelmaniers in New Ross.
That's right. I came on for Bahi Brooks. Yeah, I came on.
Left cornerback.
Yeah, I came on, and I came on to the hurler, Ibar, and and Bahi was. You won't mind me saying this, but he was slowing up at the time, you know. I was never too much faster than him, really, but I got two blocks in a row on him. So I blocked him, and he took it up again, and he went to his favourite left again. I blocked him again, and he fell back, and I kind of jumped out over and picked it up, and I drove it on, and sure, I was seeing stars. You know, this was massive, 16. Sure, it was huge. Probably my standout was, I'd say, the intermediate hurling semi-final against Askamore. Up in Belfield.
Oh yeah.
I think that's where, like, we had, like, as a group of players, we had.
What year was that, Mick?
Yeah, 2015, because we went up senior then. 2016 was our year senior. But like, we really kind of, say back 2010, 12, we had really got a group of really good, committed players, and we were trying so hard. And I think that day we were underdogs. Askamore were really fancy. They had the likes of Tompkins, Nolan. We just rolled up the sleeves and we just gave it everything we had, and it was for the full 60 minutes, kind of really, you know, it's kind of shoulder to shoulder, and we just came out on top that day, and it was just this huge sense of we're almost there, and euphoria after it, that we kind of, I just really believed that was our pinnacle as a group of players. I know we got over the line against the Duffrey in the final, but I think the challenge that Askamore laid down to us that day and how we went back at it, that's for me the standout. Yeah.
I don't think I have a 100% single standout moment. I know the first time that we won the intermediate final in Wexford Park against Ferns, it was at 96. That would have brought the biggest kind of euphoria to the club, and I was fanatical clubman at the time, and that was beyond our wildest dreams. Like, we weren't going anywhere, and in fairness to Robbie Jacob is a lunatic, but a fanatical hurling man, and he suited the Shamrocks down to the ground, because the Shamrocks are unorthodox as well, and that works for the Shamrocks, that kind of madness.
A bit of madness, yeah.
Yeah, and he got us from nowhere that year. That before the county final, we went up to the pitch, and he said, "Get back into the cars, don't tug out, get back into the cars." We drove out, follow me, and we drove out to where Jack French lives, and up across a big ploughed field, and parked up over the brow at the top of it. And we did kind of laps of it in groups of 4. The slowest player of the 24 that day, the least fit, was Declan Root. He just left the Wexford team after winning the All-Ireland. And I said, "Jesus, Robbie, it's the right job, you know." I said, "How did you come up with that?" "I just gone by," he said, and I thought of it. And I said, "Who owns the land here?" "Oh, geez," he said, "I wouldn't have a clue." I know no one out here.
Paddy, who are the best players that you've managed or played with?
I think the best player that the Shamrocks had since they were reformed was Willie O'Rourke. He wasn't. He hadn't a great strike to score or anything like that, but he'd win a ball anywhere, and he'd fight like a devil for the ball. He was a great battler. So I used to think Eugene Redmond, Lord of mercy on him. he was the kind of the best hurler we had, I think.
I often heard about Eugene. I never got to see him in his prime, but lucky enough to hurl with Willie, and I would put Willie down as a warrior. But I suppose after hurling with the likes of Adrian Murphy, I thought was the right one, full back, the cock. I think Barry McGee, centre back, was fantastic. He had a career with Wexford then as well, and I think Ray Keogh and Miley Cash up front. You know, like talk about goal getters. Miley played all the way up to under 21 with Wexford, but for me, I really couldn't look by Wallace, just for what he gives to the club, the length of his career. Like he made his debut against the Duffrey Rovers up in Gorey in 1997, you know, and there he was togging out last year again, and will more than likely dust off the boots again this year. But what he gave to us, and even, I mean, when you talk about commitment, going into a county semi-final on your wedding day and running from the altar to Wexford Park, getting changed in the back of a car.
I kind of nearly would go with you now, Mick.
Yeah, I couldn't look by him, you know.
Who would be the worst?
We have a few candidates there, I'd say. Over the years, there'd be a lot of lads with hamstrings and things like that, but
The worst trainer. Jesus.
I'd nearly go with one of the lads that's current on the team now, to be honest with you. I'll have to call him out on this. I'd say Tootsie. He doesn't like the hardship at all, and I was only talking to him last night, and he was on about getting back early now and training and all that, and he'll be the first lad to be missing, you know.
So all clubs have their jokers and characters, none more so than the Shamrocks. Who would be the main characters around the club?
The main character ever in the club was Batty Brooks.
Batty.
Yeah.
What made him so funny? Or
He's a natural talent for wit. Again, this is bordering on the cutting out bit. And Batty had me make a speech at his wedding, and I said, what am I going to say? Tell him about what you did for me, right? We were playing the Duffrey Marshallstown, but we were going to be missing Batty. I didn't know Batty at the time, right? Why he's in jail, right?
True story.
This is a true story. I was thinking in work, and I rang the barracks, and I asked for John McCarthy. He was a detective, lived opposite me. And I said, John, I want to ask you a queer thing. He said, what? I said, could I get a chap out of jail to play a hurling match? He said, will you ever fuck off, right? And he left down the phone, right? And then he rang back after about 10 minutes. He said, are you serious about that? I said, well, I think I am. And he said, who is it? I said, Batty Brooks. He said, what is he like? I said, I actually don't know the chap. I know where he lives, but I don't know him. And where is he in jail? I don't know, right? Left down the phone again. And he rang me back after about another quarter of an hour. He said, would you come down and have a word with the super? Right? And I did. And they said, would I collect him and bring him back? And I said I would, but if he ran, I wasn't going to run after him. And I collected Batty out of jail and brought him, and he hurled up in Patrick's Park in a hurling match, and we won. And we won again with him. And the third time, the warden brought him in a minibus with some other prisoners, and they all had to sit together near the entrance there, right, surrounded, and Batty hurled. And the nice end of that story is that the warden brought Batty to the All-Ireland final that year, right? He was a Kilkenny man, and he used to have him up working on his garden or whatever, right? And he had a handicapped son, and the son died after a couple of years. And he asked Batty to carry the coffin.
Way.
Yeah.
So kind of turned full circle.
Wasn't that good, wasn't it?
Yeah. But Batty was due to mark Eamon Scallion, or as he called himself, Eamon Scallion. So he said, I was down to mark Scallion, and the boys had him built up all week, and he was Scallion. So down in Munamalind, you know where the old toilets are, just a block? Yeah. And he said he was in there doing his business, and who walks in? Only Scallion. So he was so wound up. Scallion pulled up beside him, and Batty just went, dropped him. So before the match, in the toilets before the match, Batty clobbered him.
Batty was an awful man.
I turned around anyway, and who walked in the door? big desperate Dan, and he clobbered me, he said. Before the match.
We were hurling ferns up there, and Betty was hurling on Charlie Welsh. And a row started, and Charlie's a big fella, right? Charlie gave Betty a few boxes and offered them out to the sideline. And Betty said, right out loud, everyone could hear it, I'm not going out there with you. He said, you've a drill of spuds in you. He said, all I got was a bag of potatoes for my dinner. We'll start laughing and did that to him. So that's Betty Brooks in a nutshell now, you know.
Yeah. Modern era, you couldn't look by Powder, really. He was kind of almost a carbon copy of Batty in a way. Like when we were under 10, 12, he was just always the centre of attention. Like that, real quick with the wit, you know, I always had an answer for everyone. But was always, you know, he was the ladies' man. He was the entertainer. He was well able to hurl. You know, he was just he had it all, and he used to always have the stories, the songs. And sure, look at where he is now with
now he's an internet sensation.
25 or 30,000 followers on Instagram. He's entertaining a whole lot more than us. Yeah.
And Powder's father is from Kilkenny, so when Powder's father came to hurl with us, he was christened Pissing the Powder. Batty christened him Pissing the Powder. And I went down.
Powder. I know they're all powders.
Now they're all powders.
Yeah.
Who would be the unsung heroes in the Shamrocks, Mick?
Yeah, well, look at, say, lads like Paddy, Batty, Pudgy. You know, there's pictures in that book that he has there. They're up there with shovels, mixing cement, building the dressing rooms that we have up there now. But I suppose they're well known, and you know they're like your own.
The current one would be Seamus Wallace.
For me, it's Seamus.
Yeah.
I think the years that he's put in up there, and he's still the kit man. He's still there with the jerseys, the water bottles. Never looks for a thing. I mean, the lotto, the penny bank. You know, he's behind so many good things. And previous to that, I'd have to say Johnners.
Yeah, I'd even go back further now. You're right with Johnners. Yeah. Johnners, Billy MacDonald.
Billy Mac, yeah.
Always at the lotto.
Paula
Hutchinson.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tim Brogan. Father Barron.
Yeah.
It was right workers in the Shamrocks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call out a list of clubs from around the county, and you have to tell me whether they're a friend or a foe of the Shamrocks. Okay, so the first one I'm going to go with is Rathnure.
Definitely a friend for me.
Yeah, friend. Yeah.
Monaghan.
Definitely a friend for me. Sorry, you go to the next
We
one.
hinted both for me. I went to school a lot, lads, but I suppose any team that we would have come across a little bit in championship, you build up that rivalry. So they would have been a foe for a while, but I have a lot of friends out there.
Oilgate.
Four.
Yeah, foe. Yeah.
Why, lads?
There was
niggle there, is there?
It was always an edge playing Oilgate.
Anyone in particular? I'm putting you on the spot now.
Actually, look, I'll say it now. Myself and Podge Dorn had a good old tangle a couple of times. There was no secret, but we got over it eventually. He was excellent. He was expert at the time. I was pulling and dragging him for the most part of it, but I enjoyed it, you know.
The Rivalries.
In the past, I would have said four, but I wouldn't know.
Okay, moving swiftly on. Ferns.
Foe.
Friend.
Oh, well, we came across him so many times in intermediate hurling. We had good, tough games, and it was always enjoyable. But because of that, I'd say foe. Yeah.
Says Buffer's Alley.
Friend.
Yeah.
They're our kind of club as well.
As we're going on to the Know Your Club quiz part of the interview now, lads, of the show. So I'm going to ask you 6 questions.
Thinking cap on now, Paddy.
Number 1, the Shamrocks won the Premier Minor Football Championship in what year?
94.
Yeah.
94 is correct, lads. Yeah, so you're off the mark. Second one, who captained the Shamrocks when they won the 1985 Junior A title?
Oh, Jesus. I was the trainer. Who was the captain? Bert.
Bert Murphy, yeah, correct. 2 out of 2.
2 for 2.
Juden on that?
No.
All right.
Third one, lads. What is on the current Shamrocks crest? And Nick, you can't look at your top.
The current Shamrocks
The
test.
current Shamrocks crest.
Well,
He's not an answer, he's just discussing.
I designed a crest for the first time T-shirts came out, and it was Vinegar Hill and the tower to the left. I took a photograph of Vinegar Hill, but I don't know if that's on the present one.
Still on it with the Shamrocks towards the front.
Is it?
Yeah, we'll go.
Well, we'll reveal there then, Mick.
There you are. Shamrocks towards the front and the Vinegar Hill at the back.
Good man. I wouldn't have got it all now.
The Shamrocks played the same club in their first game upon returning to the senior hurling ranks in 97 and 2015. Who were that club?
1997 we played Buffer's Alley in Gorey.
Was it the alley?
No, we played Buffer's Alley in
The
Gorey.
same team in 2015 when you got back.
Now you tell me about 2015.
Sure, we did play the alley in 15 out in Ferns. Are you sure? Well, sure.
I'm sure about 97, yeah.
Well, then it's Buffer's Alley is the answer then.
Correct. Well done, lads. 4 out of 4. Fifth one. What was unusual about the Shamrocks quarter-final in the 1996 Intermediate Hurling Championship?
We got a walkover.
Liam Mellows.
We got a walkover.
Yeah, you got to walk over.
Scanning upset.
5 out of 5 so far. Who defeated the Shamrocks in the 2004 relegation decider?
Only
Monagher, correct. 6 out of 6, lads.
6. Top Cats.
I teach up beside the Shamrocks, Father Murphy Park in St. Senans, and I've noticed a lot of work going on there in the last year, lads, developments going on. Can you tell us a little bit about what is actually going in there? And
yeah, well, I suppose first of all, none of it would be happening. Or the committee are working very hard over the last while, and there's a lot of fundraising going on. Say Conor O'Neill in particular with the fundraising, he's really driving that. Stephen Casey, treasurer, Martin Sheehan, Sheeno, chairperson, Warren Wheelock, secretary. But they have a good committee behind them. But look at fair dues to all of them. But what they're after doing is redeveloping the lower pitch into kind of a training, but more or less an underage pitch, putting a walking track around that's floodlit, and then railing it off properly. So, trying to get support back from the community and breathe life back into it a little bit. Say Bridget Jordan, Liz Kenny, people like that really helping out. But no, it's exciting times for the club. It's very, very good up there now at the minute.
very good. It's prediction time. So I'm going to ask you your All-Ireland hurling champions for 2023, Paddy. Who do you think?
Oh God, you asked Mick first. I'd have to analyse that. 2023.
All-Ireland hurling champions.
Whew.
Yeah, one word.
Kilkenny.
Kilkenny. Mick?
Limerick.
All-Ireland football champions.
Kerry. We're after opening the box now. They'll win.
Yeah, I think I'd say Kerry as well. Yeah.
Kerry.
Yeah.
Okay. County senior hurling champions. Mick?
I'm going to give the Ans a shout. I think they're knocking on the door and they're falling a little bit flat when it comes to the business end, but I'm going to give them a shout. I think they might come up with the goods. They might be after learning a bit from the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I'd pick the team I picked last year and they were nowhere, but I'd pick them again. Shelmaliers.
And the last one, lads, county senior football champions.
I don't care.
Put a knife in it, he said. I'd say the Shells. I'd say the Shells will bounce back, yeah.
Very good. Lads, that's the end of the show.
All right.
I'd like to thank you for coming in tonight into the White House where the Shamrocks was started off.
That's right.
Originated.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank the White House and Nicky Murphy for allowing us in here to do the show. So,
Good Shamrocks, man.
thanks very much,
It
lads.
was a pleasure. We're all right, Dom. We're all right.